start this thing all over again. Again, sorry for the delay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second quarter 2015 Spine Pain Management Interactive Webinar Investor Conference Call. Before I turn over the call to your panelists, I would like to take a moment to introduce new participants to your interactive console to the right of your screen. Important for two reasons. One, be sure to select whether you're using your telephone or computer speakers to hear the call, and two, should you like to present a question to the panelists, you will do it through this console. At any time, you can hide the console by clicking the arrow to the right and retrieve it the same way. You do not need to wait until the question and answer portion, which will follow the formal presentation, to present your questions. At any time you desire, simply use the question box on your console and type in your questions as you would in any internet chat console. All questions will be held in order received and presented to the panelists during the Q&A portion. With this said, let me now open the conference call by introducing John Bergeron, SPIN's Chief Financial Officer, to give the mandatory compulsory disclaimer.
This presentation includes forward-looking statements as determined by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. All statements other than statements of historical facts included in this presentation that address activities, events, or developments that the company believes or anticipates will or may occur in the future are forward-looking statements. Such forward-looking statements involve known and unknown risks that address activities, events, developments that the company believes or anticipates will or may occur in the future, or forward-looking statements. Such forward-looking statements involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors which may cause the actual results, performance, or achievements of the company to be materially different from any future results, performance, or achievements expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. Such factors include general economic and business conditions, the ability to acquire and develop specific projects, the ability to fund operations, healthcare service demands, changes in healthcare practices, government regulation, and other factors over which the company has little or no control. The company does not intend and is not obligated to update publicly any forward-looking statements. The contents of this presentation should be considered in conjunction with the warnings and cautionary statements contained in the company's recent filings with the SEC. And now I turn the conference over to Dr. William Donovan.
Thank you, John. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Q2 conference call. I appreciate you taking time. Sorry about the delay in starting. I guess everybody probably thinking it's Friday the 13th, but it's these meteor showers that are all over the United States, so there's great meteor showers tonight. We just had a call from David Spencer, our CTO. He's in an emergency room right now with a family emergency, and he's trying to get here or connect. So we'll try to get this going and catch up. Before I turn this over to John for the numbers, I have several comments to make before we get into the financial part. On this slide, I'm talking about the structural changes in medicine. Medicine is under attack. Reimbursement is down due to the Affordable Care Act. Hospitals have increased competition from physician-owned outpatient surgery centers. Regulation is out of control. Hospitals are looking for quality assurance tools to gain market share, increase reimbursement, and defend against liability claims. Transparency is a tool that will allow hospitals to cope with the issues I just listed above. What we want to say is, how can spine pain and Halo help hospitals and doctors? We've been approached by hospitals to develop a system to record operative procedures where endoscopes are used or where robots are used. They're also very interested in a black box for risk management in the surgical area itself. We as doctors in practice, we're looking for new revenue centers. And there's a big issue of ICD-9 versus ICD-10 medical diagnostic coding. That is, when I see a patient and make a diagnosis, There are certain codes we use that goes into the report and to the billing. That's called ICD-9. It's been used for years. October the 1st this year, all coding, medical coding, is going to ICD-10, except liability, personal injury type cases. And in our business of liability spine injuries, our doctors must continue using ICD-9. Well, many doctor offices, in fact, most of them, have already switched over to ICD-10. The insurance computer system for personal injury will not recognize ICD-10 codes. They will only recognize ICD-9 codes. And there's a 2-year delay when those codes will go to ICD-10. So spine pain is saying to doctors, we can help you. We will be your ICD-9 people to help you get the correct diagnoses into your report. The transparency is a huge issue, and I feel that this will validate patient treatment and will help reduce fraud. And then the use of HALO, not only in what I've listed, but we have cadaver labs that have approached us. So the idea to be able to record and document what procedure you're doing and so forth is becoming accepted more and more. The next slide. I want to talk about chronic pain. We can refer to it as the disease of chronic pain. In the United States, chronic pain, that is, patients that have pain for more than 3 months, it is a $635 billion per year health issue. It's a major cost. In fact, it costs more to treat chronic pain than cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. Injury is the primary event that initiates the disease of chronic pain. And this is by Dr. Jeffrey Kronk, who is an attorney and has spent his life dealing with injuries with spine instability. Chronic pain affects 116 million adults per year. So it's a very large market. This slide talks about chronic pain, and if you notice down in the right lower quadrant, this is an article published 2 days ago in the Washington Post. More than 1 out of every 10 American adults experiences chronic pain. In 2009, the national health expenditures was $2.5 trillion. That's 17.3% of GDP. By 2019, the national health care costs are expected to reach $4.5 trillion, or 19.3% GDP. This is not sustainable. And I think this Washington Post article really brings it home. Next slide. Our mission at Spine Pain and HALO is to be a spine injury solutions type company. And this is why I've highlighted under number 1, it's a solutions type company. Under number 2, we've developed a proprietary high-resolution system, and we've made additional major changes and upgrades to our baseline system for the QVH. The QVH is the centerpiece of our video management system, and we've been working with Cooper Consulting Service here in Houston for the EMC testing. Next slide. I would like to give a snapshot at the diagnostic centers. We can add in now Tyler in 2015 under Odessa. Although I am not happy with the revenue for Q2, we're making progress, and our CFO will go over and show from Q1 to Q2 of this year. But what I'd like to highlight is our positive working capital ratio of 26:1. We have almost $1.2 million of available credit and cash as of the end of Q2. I will now, I want you to focus on, we've reduced SG&A, we've reduced the net loss, we've reduced our debt, but I'll now turn this over to our CFO, John Bergeron.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. As you can see, we had $568,000 in revenue in the second quarter, which represents a 31% increase from the first quarter. It should be noted that this is the third quarter in a row that we have increased revenue. Net loss was decreased over about approximately $100,000 from the last quarter. We continue to invest heavily in the development and the marketing of the Quad Video Halo. The funding portion of our business is 100% responsible for the revenues. We expect to see some Quad Video Halo revenue in the third quarter of 2015. It should be noted, of the total losses of $595,000 for the year, $234,000 of that is in non-cash charges. Change slides, please. We have a relatively clean balance sheet. We expect to go to compete once the completion of the Quad Video Halo is complete. We expect to have an aggressive marketing campaign coupled with the opening of 2 new additional affiliates by the end of the year 2015. New slide, please. This slide basically shows that we continue to get new cases in the door. It's somewhat slowed down by the lesser number of affiliates we have than we've had in the past. Change slides, please. We collected $707,000 in the settlement of funds this quarter. We continue to believe that our allowance for doubtful accounts is adequate to cover any potential write-offs in the future. This just goes to show that we do collect cash and the model does work. Change slides, please. And with this, I'll return it back to Dr. Donovan.
Thank you, John. I think the 2 questions that come up: are there new markets that offer growth of what like we had before in Florida and so forth? The answer is yes. And the second question, are we still able to collect money if we are no longer working in a market? And the answer is yes. I want to review on this slide some of the Q2 major developments. Our patent for the Quad Video Halo has been issued. We have the patent in hand. and I've identified it under number 1, patent number 908457752. And it deals with a fixed or an adjustable or fixed clamp attaching to an X-ray machine, and has mounts for accessories. And the accessories can be a camera, a video camera, a light fixture, a microphone, an imaging proctor, a video projector, or an imaging device. So we feel that this patent has significant value because of the real estate. Under number 2, when we went for EMC and EMI testing, this is sort of like UL, but this is actually more sophisticated. We went for an international type of testing because we had tremendous interest this past year from international contacts, mostly international hospitals, that want this for teaching and education. So we went to a higher level of certification, and it requires more time than we originally anticipated. The most difficult part, the EMC and EMI, the electronics part, we've passed successively, and we're now going through the safety parts. And it just takes time, and it costs money. But we feel that we're on progress, and we will get this, but we're going for the higher certification. In number 3, we've retired $50,000 of 10% debt and only have $50,000 more to be paid next year. But right now, we have total borrowing of $1.575 million, which consists of basically $1 million at 2.2%, $500,000 at 6%, and the remaining $50,000 at 10%. We feel that we have some reasonably priced money in the bank. At the end of Q2 this year, we have $975,000 in the credit facility unused and cash of $170,000. So that gives us money to open more centers, finish the QVH, and we're working on some other things. And under number 4, we've been approached by some hospitals and doctors who wanted to use a variation of the QVH, and we're calling this an undocked QVH. That is, there's doctors that do specific types of endoscopic surgery, which means they do it through a scope in the belly and whatever, and many of these doctors will use a robotic in addition to the endoscopic methods, and they're only seeing the inside part of the body. They want outside video. So we've already been to in surgery at a medical facility, a very large teaching hospital, where the surgeon was very pleased. And this was a type of case where endoscopic was done through the abdomen, the distal esophagus was resected, the robot came in and then reattached the resected part to the normal area. So this was all recorded with our undocked QVH, where you can see both outside and inside. And this doctor wanted this for teaching, he wanted it for education, and he wanted it for marketing. The videos are magnificent. I mean, it's broadcast quality video. And he has 2 other doctors and 2 different other specialties at this teaching hospital that are very interested in this new adaptation of the QVH. Plus, we have a surgeon in Houston that has clinics in the United States, outside of the United States. He's looking for the similar type of undocked QVH with telemedicine. Lastly, we opened a facility in Tyler. Next slide. This will give you a picture of the undocked QVH. The videos in here are spectacular. I mean, it's broadcast quality, and David was able to come in, set up, vary the QVH in an undocked manner. And this actual photograph was taken just 2 weeks ago. And the doctor wants it for teaching worldwide. He wants it for education of his residents and fellows. And he wants it done for marketing. Next slide. As you know, we have been in business. We've collected over $12 million on just under 2,000 cases. And when we started from inception, we raised $3.5 million of funding. So out of that $3.5 million, we've been able to collect cash, $12.1 million. We've settled just under 2,000 cases. There's still over 2,300 cases that are still waiting final settlement. Of all the cases that have settled, 1,954, there were 123 cases that settled for no money. That's 6.2% of the cases. So our failure rate is 6.2%. Next slide. I want to talk about the value of the QVH. If you see on the first line, it says, seeing is believing. In the United States, there's a company, it's called OR Excellence. They put on, they have a website, obviously, but they have the Outpatient Surgery News magazine, and they put on seminars, and there's one here in October in the state of Texas. The entire magazine that month during the show deals with surgical video needs, and the caption for this meeting is "Seeing is Believing." Video has moved into the OR much quicker than I ever imagined. We feel the QVH technology, both docked and undocked, gives us an opportunity to capture part of the videos that are being done both in surgery, in office rooms, offices, outpatient, and so forth. We have recurrent revenue streams for storage in the cloud for the data and support. And we have this portfolio of cases already funding with potential $11 million. I personally feel with the patent now on the QVH in place that the value of this has definitely increased. Add on this the EMC and the EMI and the safety testing. That now puts us in a position where I feel that we can sell these units and or lease the units. Doctors in practice, if they deal with liability injuries, they're going to encounter a significant problem when their computer system switch to ICD-10. We're going to be the solution. This is going to give us a marketing edge where we can be the ICD-9 individual handling their liability cases. This switch is the first time that I've been involved in so many years where the ICD codes have actually changed. Next slide. Our management goals for this year and beyond, we're exploring new revenue areas, mass tort, risk management, telemedicine. The undocked QVH is perfect for telemedicine. To attract new doctor affiliates, the ICD-9 and ICD-10 issues is going to be a marketing tool that we're going to use. We're also going to open some corporate-owned Halo clinics in states where corporate practice in medicine is not a problem. We cannot open Halo-owned clinics in Texas. The new generation QVH, it's remotely monitored, and while we're doing procedures in Odessa, it's actually being monitored real time here in Houston. With the new QVH, you can do remote monitoring and fixing when something goes down, actually anywhere where there is an internet. Next slide. Next slide. The takeaway comments that I want you to have. There's some significant changes with hospitals, doctors. Transparency is here to stay. It's not going away. And I believe the insurance companies are going to use this transparency to reduce fraud with these pain procedures. This market is so huge that the payer is going to want to help reduce their cost. Transparency, I think, will be very helpful. In education and training, cadaver labs have approached us about using QVH. And for any of you who have ever been to a cadaver lab, we go to these facilities to learn new procedures. And most of the new surgery procedures we're learning, they're minimally invasive. So you have to use a C-arm. You're doing everything through very, very, very small incisions. And the QVH is perfect because you can see inside and outside in real time. So minimally invasive surgery, especially in the training, is going to require a QVH for training. And when you're doing them, if you learn to do something with QVH, you'll stay with it. Next slide. Next slide. This is where I would have David start talking, but as I said earlier, he's in the emergency room with a family. And so I'm just going to pick up and carry on. I've put down the patent number, and this patent number has to be displayed now on each new QVH that is put into a doctor's office or to a hospital. Next slide. I want to quickly go over the summary. Next slide. Next slide. We've had a very good update, 9 months progress. The components are beautiful. We have them in 3 locations right now, and we can monitor these from afar. Next. If you look to the left, 01, that's what the original system looked like. Then we went to the not-so-present system that we're not using anymore, now to this new system. It's beautiful. It moves around well. It does not take a lot of space, and in certain situations, we can take that 27-inch monitor, put it on the wall, take the black box out of that cart, put that somewhere else, and you could actually do a model without the cart if it's an issue with space or money. And we're going to be installing one of these here very soon without the cart. Next slide. This gives an idea of the new C-arm band and with an LED lighting. The reason this LED lighting is so great, the light comes down right onto the area where you're doing the procedure. And our pain guys who are doing the injections love it because there's not a question about is there focus lighting where you're putting the needles in and so forth. And when you start, all systems come on automatically at once. Next slide. David is finishing up at the app at the present time. Next slide. This gives you an idea of what the trade show booth looks like. It's clean, it's to the point, and we've been at trade shows where other vendors were there, and they've approached us about helping them get a better trade show booth. And we're actually working with one right now, and they've already paid us some money to help with the trade show booth. Next slide. I just want to summarize Halo in the market. In mass tort, or any time you want to do a surgical procedure not requiring a C-arm, we would use an undocked system. In the hospital, it could be done either way, docked or undocked, depending on if a C-arm is being used. In pain management, you're always using a C-arm, so it'll be the traditional QVH. And I mentioned this doctor in Houston, very, very subspecialty, but he has clinics in the United States, he has in Dubai, he's opening some others, and his wife says, he lives in Houston, she wants him here, not traveling around the world. So an undocked system with telemedicine is really the solution with him, and we're working with him to design a unit. Next slide. I think as we look at spine pain, how we've matured over the years, we're to the point now where we're basically a spine injury solutions type company. And we provide visually based data. Video is the future. Obviously, we understood why Google bought YouTube back in 2009. Video is the future. An example, we've been approached by a doctor in New Jersey, Spinal Kinetics. They have a terrific visually based system, x-rays, to document instability secondary to ligament injuries. And Dr. Brownstein is a terrific doctor, and he's developed this system, and it's basically a visually based where he can document by degrees if there's instability. These are the types of companies that we're going to be working with. Next slide. Before we get to question and answer, I don't know how many on this call, but when they talk about audio-visual in surgery, about a month ago, and Google. You can go to Google and Google anesthesia-colonoscopy. It's incredible. This was a patient undergoing a colonoscopy who actually accidentally left his iPhone on, recorded the audio, and it's all over the web. So, and people read that, and they've listened to it. The audio-visual is not leaving the diagnostic procedure and surgery areas. Let's go to questions. We'll try to help you through whatever your question would be.
First question is from Joe Kendall, and I guess this is for John. He said, I may have missed it, but did you explain why the second quarter of last year had a big bump and it seemed to have slackened, even though we're building up now?
Yeah. The question is why did we have decreased revenue from second quarter 2015 to 14? And the answer is that there was 2 large surgeries that we funded in 2014 that did not happen in 2015. That's the main answer right there.
Okay, from Mike Andrews, what difference the QVH from the Stryker SwitchPoint Infinity integrated operating room systems?
Okay, good question. Stryker has a great video camera. It's in the handle on the light. And for those who've seen it or been near it, whenever you move around in the room, it blocks out areas. Doctors want multiple views. The Stryker camera is one video camera, and it's a good camera, but it blocks, the doctor gets in the way of things. Number 2, you cannot see if it's an endoscopic procedure. That camera that's up on the light would not see that, obviously. One other point on the numbers from Q15.2 to Q15.14, there was one major clinic because of a technical problem was not included in Q2.15. I think when we get to Q3, 15 versus 14, I think you'll see a clear increase in revenues compared.
Okay, Dr. Donovan, could you please elaborate a little bit more of the ICD-9 and ICD-10? It was not too clear to Lee G.
Okay, that's a great question. Right now, if I see a patient, say a disc herniation to the neck, that's 722.0, that goes into my coding of this patient. Now, that code is picked up by the insurance computer system. They recognize codes, ICD codes, on the medical part. That's ICD-9. A disc herniation in the neck, ICD-10, has a different code. They've changed all the codes. So if I see a patient October the 2nd and I put in an ICD-10 code, it will not be recognized by the liability insurance carrier. So the medical, and this is how insurance companies, the liability insurance companies, how they rate cases and so on and so forth. They have all kinds of data coming into their software. And medical is only part of it, but the medical is a significant part. So if the doctor uses ICD-10 codes, that computer system will not pick it up, because in liability injuries, they're staying on ICD-9. These are diagnostic codes, and there's thousands of codes on ICD-9. They've been more than, I think, 10 times the codes in ICD-10, and they're different. It's going to cause a huge problem for the doctors who treat traditional insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, traditional insurance. That has to be billed under ICD-10, the diagnostic coding. If they do liability injuries, the diagnosis has to be done by ICD-9. They have to match up, because if you do CPT billing, with the codes for billings, the CPTs have to match up with ICD-10s and 9.
The next question is from Kurt Delar. Have there been any significant problems going through the EMC testing?
No.
And he has a follow-up question over here. Said at the last conference call, David Spencer said that he felt confident that we could probably sell at least 30 units between certification and year end. Since this is contracted a little bit, do you still feel that we could move as many as 30 units between year end?
I don't know. We're going for the highest certifications, and it's taken longer than we expected. I don't like to predict numbers. So you're going to run out of time, but we're going to have a better product, and so I will say I don't think we're going to hit 30, but I don't know what we would hit.
I might add, Bill, as you know, I spoke with Cooper a couple of days ago, and he thought that at the outside it shouldn't be more than about 3 more weeks till we get approved.
Well, I've heard that
still
before.
Gives you.
I've heard that before.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe these testing facilities. It's incredible. They come up with new testing stuff as they're doing it. And if you have a cable more than a half a meter in length, it requires additional testing. Well, a year ago, they didn't have to do that testing. So, you know, we're in the process. We'll get it through, and then we'll get out there and do our best to sell some units.
Okay, Tom Keller said, what countries would you expect this higher level of certification would accept our Halo? I know there's a lot of countries.
The UK for sure. It's a CE mark.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going for a CE mark in addition to the EMC and the EMI here. And we were at Medica last year. There's people want it. They want it for, it's really interesting. Most of the foreign stuff is hospitals, teaching hospitals. That's what they want it for. And but the CE mark is for Europe.
I might also have a talk with Tommy Cooper. He thought that it would probably be equally equivalent to about 80% of, he wasn't too specific with it, but like Australia, for example, and Canada would also be included in that. He felt pretty sure. Okay, let's see. From Tom Keller again, the doctor that did the procedure in the open operating room, would you anticipate he and or his hospital would buy a unit?
Yes. If it's going to the surgery committee now, and there may be multiple units. But
if we have any more questions,
there's no guarantee.
Bill, you can keep talking, but we're down to our last question here. If anybody wants to ask a quick question, just type it in the question box.
Those have been all good questions, by the way.
And we're going once, going twice. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and glad you were here. Sorry we had the technical difficulty up front. Well, hopefully we won't have a computer internet crash right when our conference call starts the next time. Thank you. And any last comments, either Doc, or John Bergeron?
Yeah, I think that video is here to stay. It's not going away. And the doctors, the hospitals, they want a higher quality of video. They want broadcast video. And not a lot of people can produce broadcast quality. And we're working on some systems right now that can help integrate. And I think just got to remember one thing. Seeing is believing. And that's the attitude in the medical field now. It's no difference. The police are wearing these cameras and everything. But seeing is believing. And that's the name of, that's the byline of this trade show. Seeing is believing. So hopefully in 3 months.
We actually have one last question too before you sign off here, Bill. This slipped in over here again, was from Tom Keller. He said, if I can read this thing over here. He said, what types of surgery over and above, you mentioned, I guess he's saying here, you mentioned the minimally invasive and we have the injections. Could the halo be used in actual truly, I guess he's trying to say truly invasive type surgery. I guess he means like open heart surgery or something like that.
Sure. No, you can do it in a non-docked manner. Now, a docked QV8 is where you're going to use a C-arm. Now, there's an example. If you're going to do a disc replacement in the neck, most of the operation is done under C-arm. Has to be, because you go in and take the disc out, but you have to open the space. So you put in a spacer and you put pressure on it to open it. And you have to have a C-arm in order to determine is the back part of the posterior part of the space open enough for a disc replacement. There's a lot of surgery like this endoscopic and robotic, GI, urology, prostate, GU. There's a lot of people that are using minimally invasive plus a robot. That you would use an undocked QVH in that. And doctors are looking for an edge in marketing, training, and the hospitals are looking for the very same thing. And this major teaching hospital that we were there a couple weeks ago, if they get involved, there'll be other hospitals in the area that get involved. But I truly believe video is going to improve the quality of care. And people expect it now. It's video. I'll tell you, 2-3 years ago, I never thought it would happen this fast, but it's changing. It's changing very quickly. For those who were here today on the call, I thank you very much. We started off with a computer crash. It's those meteors that are doing it. But have a great weekend and go watch the meteors tonight.